Hi. Hey everybody, welcome to Knock Knock Hi with the Glockenfleckens. I am Dr. Glockenflecken, also known as Wolf Flannery.
I am Lady Glockenflecken, also known as Kristen Flannery.
How many times have you said Glockenflecken in your life?
More than I care to admit.
Thank you all for joining us. We got a fantastic guest today. We got Dr. Knock.
Yes.
He is a
TikTok.
He's on TikTok, Dr. Knock on TikTok, and on lots of social media. He does a great job. Fantastic educational edutainment content.
Science communication.
Science communications is a big deal for him. And he does a great job with it. He's a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. He makes all these videos about science and
Misinformation.
helps people understand things. We talk a lot today about misinformation.
Yeah.
Which is it's just so irritating to me. And he brings a lot of great points about how to approach misinformation, how to the best strategies, and how to correct it, and how to set people on the right path. And we talk about our shared annoyance for supplements, people promoting supplements.
Yes.
Just all kind. We touch on so many different things.
Lots of things.
Great.
It's a potentially a hot button episode. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think it should be.
It is.
And our audience is usually pretty level-headed and intelligent.
We talk
and thoughtful,
about big pharma. We talk about just the perception of pharma, and I think it's all interesting. And pharma is a necessary thing in our society. Like we
wouldn't
need
even
it.
have.
But we do talk about him being in the pharmaceutical industry,
right?
And the perceptions therein,
right?
And
also, I think it's really interesting. A lot of thought candy today.
Did you ever take organic chemistry?
No.
It's got me thinking about organic chemistry.
Yeah.
It's just and it's not like Great Thoughts.
No.
Because that was such a hard class with the C's and the O's and the lines and then the
carbons, oxygens, and bonds and
the bonds, the covalent
double
bonds.
Yeah.
The triple bonds, the quadruple bonds.
I don't know. How many bonds can you have?
How many bonds can you have?
I didn't take the class. I'm doing pretty good considering I didn't take that class.
We did not ask him that.
We forgot.
Dang it.
Yeah.
That's okay. Maybe next time. Oh, before we get to our guest,
yes.
What's going on in Pittsburgh?
I know something's in the water.
Pittsburgh has you guys have shown up for
really have
for the ticket sales on our live show. We had to add a second show in Pittsburgh.
Right. We sold out so fast on the first one that we had to add a second one, and that one also
is also selling
like hotcakes. So you guys are the best.
If you're interested, you're in Pittsburgh, go to the website, glockenflecken.com/live. And hopefully there's still some tickets, but we are so excited because clearly the community, they're big Glockenflecken fans.
Yeah, I think those are going to be some really fun shows because there's been a lot of enthusiasm so far.
So thank you to Pittsburgh.
We're really excited.
Yeah.
Come out there and see you guys. It's my first time to Pittsburgh. Yours?
I have never been to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I hear so many wonderful things about Pittsburgh.
You'll have to give us all the good recommendations.
The people are wonderful. They got the Steelers.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh
they do.
Steelers.
That's right.
It's a good football team.
Black and yellow.
Not that you care.
Right? That was the black and yellow.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Remember
that?
Look at this. You know something. That's good. Can you name it?
There was a period of my life where I knew all of the NFL teams. Do
Really?
you know why?
Because your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a big
we had to
football
watch,
fan.
and he wouldn't just watch and keep to himself. No. He had to talk about it.
Oh, maybe
had to teach us things.
Okay, that's it. Maybe I need to start doing that for our kids. All right, let's get to our guest.
Okay.
All right, here we go, Dr. Knock. Today's episode is brought to you by the DAX Copilot from Microsoft. DAX Copilot is your AI assistant for automating clinical documentation and workflows, helping you to be more efficient and reduce the administrative burden that causes us to feel overwhelmed and burnt out. To learn more about how DAX Copilot can help reduce burnout and restore the joy of practicing medicine, stick around after the episode or visit aka.ms/knockknockhi. That's aka.ms/knockknockhi. We are here with Morgan McSweeney PhD, Dr. Knock on social media. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Now, you are the first guest we've had with a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences.
Oh boy.
So that sounds like a challenging PhD program. Can you a lot of our listeners, are in the medical field. Many of them have gone to medical school, but in seeing what Kristen went through at the beginning of, she started
Yeah.
out in a PhD program. Honestly, it might be like harder to do the PhD
Oh,
thing.
100%.
Like,
Yes.
I don't
I mean,
know.
we don't have to sleep in weird places like you do. I say I didn't finish. It's a whole other story. But yeah, like intellectually, less memorizing, I would say, but more actual like critical thinking and new ideas.
Well, there's some
and
critical thinking in med
you
school.
know.
But Morgan, how was your mental state during your PhD program?
It started pretty high and then it came down a little bit and then it went back up again.
That's good.
So my wife actually is also a physician, so we have the same duality of experiences. I think, it's also hard, but in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're saying, a little bit less memorization. There's more, honestly, one of the biggest challenges during PhD is like holding yourself to deadlines and stuff. Because sometimes your mentor gets busy and you could easily go 6 months and not make much progress or something. And so a big part of it is like staying focused, doing the reading you've got to do. And sometimes experiments don't work anyway. And so there's a challenge there too. And like it's the Sisyphean, you're rolling the scientific ball up the hill and who knows if you'll ever get to the top.
Right.
And so pharmaceutical sciences, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, like you were actually interested in organic chemistry once upon a time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair. That's what it sounds like. Not at all the case, though. So it's surprisingly super broad within pharmaceutical sciences. You've got the chemistry side, you've got the biology side, and I was much more on the biology side.
Oh, okay.
But then you've also got super like R&D, like you're finding a new drug for the very first time, and you're screening tens of thousands of molecules from the bottom of the ocean or something, all the way to very translational, where you've already got a molecule, it works pretty well. Now we're figuring out what's the best way to deliver it to the kidney or something in the body. So I was more on the biological side and more on the translational side.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense with your content too, because you do talk a little bit more about how molecules and medications, drugs, interact with the body in different ways. And so you're still doing that kind of work then. I mean, that's in addition to the social media stuff, right?
Yeah, my quote real job
Your
is
real job.
in drug development. So I'm not technically in big pharma. I'm actually in biotech.
Little pharma?
Little pharma, baby pharma.
Baby pharma.
Which is, there's a split in the industry. Not a lot of people know this. Big pharma itself doesn't do much research and development these days. The way it works is smaller companies take an idea. Usually it spins out of an academic lab. They show it works pretty well. And once you've vetted it in like a phase 1 or phase 2 clinical study, then the big companies are like, okay, we're going to purchase your entire company and take it from there.
Oh wow. I thought he was going to say the drug. Nope, the whole thing, the whole company.
How do you feel about that
Yeah.
model?
Well, as someone who's on the smaller fish side of things, it really turns it into either like a dichotomy, win or lose type of circumstance. You've got like your one platform drug that's either going to work really well and someone's going to be interested in taking it forward, or it's going to flop and your whole company's going to dissolve.
Very
in a few
similar
months.
to a PhD program, really. Like, it sounds like you didn't ever graduate. You're just still doing that.
Wait, so it's really like boom or bust, because I mean, you have obviously as a smaller company, so you have so much riding on this one idea, and then if no takers, then that's it. Like you run out of money.
Yeah, you get to your phase 2 and you don't show superiority or something, or you have a toxicity signal. No one's going to be interested in taking that forward. And some companies do have, there is sort of a mid-tier where they've got 3 or 4 different pipeline drugs. And if one of them fails, we've got this backup. But, investors are going to want to see progress. They're going to want to see what you're working on. Can this actually help people? Is it not just cool in a scientific academic sense, but are people going to benefit from whatever you're doing? Which is a cool aspect in that in order to succeed, you have to have really strong evidence that what you're going to do is going to help people. It can't just be, it's not going to get funded if it's just a curiosity.
Right.
Right.
And when does the FDA process like come into play with this drug development? Is that after the small fish gets eaten up by the big fish?
No, it's right in the middle. They're
Mid-chomp.
They're like shining they've immersed the lantern down into the ocean between the small fish and the big fish, making sure the fish get along well together.
Okay.
Oh
And so
man.
it's right when you're going into human clinical studies for the first time is really where the FDA gets involved. They say, show us all of your toxicity data you've done. Show us your manufacturing data to show it's safe. You don't have accidental bacterial contaminants or stuff. Like, give us these hundreds and hundreds of pages of documentation. And okay, now you can do a small phase 1 clinical study.
Okay. Oh.
And then once the clinical studies go well, then the big fish says, I'll take that. Thank you.
That's right. The phase 1 is show us it's safe. The phase 2 is show us it's safe, and is there a hint that maybe it'll work? And once you get that hint that maybe it'll work, that's when typically big pharma gets interested and they say, okay, you need to now go do a phase 3 clinical study with hundreds or thousands of people, which is really hard to execute. But we have a lot of experience doing those big studies. So how about you let us do it?
Okay.
Now, big pharma, I mean, you say big pharma, that has in this day and age, that has that invokes a particular feeling in a lot of people.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've felt this on social media in particular. It's just automatic. I feel like some people's brains just get immediately, this is a bad thing. Like this, you're a bad person. Is that something you feel like you're fighting personally, like especially with all the content you put on social media? Like, how do you respond to something like that? Or what's your thought process there?
Yeah, maybe a good example to pick a drug, like insulin is a good example. Obviously, it's critical to have people making insulin at large scale in a safe manner, regularly inspected, shipping it out all over the country. The part that's bad is then you go and charge as much money as you possibly can, as much as the market can bear for that product. And so there's a lot of value in the first part, in vetting drugs that can be used to improve human health. We've seen the GLP-1 drugs initially developed for, metabolic disease and diabetes, then for weight management, but now they're finding, it also has benefits for kidney disease and, risk of dementia and cardiovascular disease and all these things. None of that would have existed if it weren't for, the big pharma. Now, I do think there's probably ways that the model could be improved in some states. To go back to the example of insulin, like the state of California said, this is way too expensive. We're going to open up our own manufacturing plant. I think they said. I don't know what the time frame for that happening. But like clearly you can make these therapeutics at costs way below what they end up getting charged for in the marketplace. Right. And so that's the bad side. But on the good side, there's a lot of, inherently good people, scientists and physicians and nurses and everyone working in so-called big pharma, whose main interest is developing drugs that are safe and effective to help treat a wide range of diseases.
Right.
Yeah. As always, I feel like this is a nuanced issue and the internet doesn't like nuance. Like that's what it all boils down to, right? You're either in one bucket or the other. There is no in between. But yeah, if we had no pharma, that would not be good either.
Obviously, like that's not a sustainable way to have a
Right.
society
Right.
thrive and
You could have
flourish.
some sort of public, you could envision the government's going to say, okay, we're going to replicate big pharma, but from the public sector, basically, which there's people who probably know much more about this than me. There could be other ways to do it. I don't know how much of our current way of doing it is sort of we're like grandfathered into this is the way it's been done and this is the way the lobbying interests have entrenched the industry or whatever. But
well, one thing I realized is too late in my career is the impact that like pharmacy benefit managers have in this whole process. They're the shadowy kind of middlemen between like pharmacies and quote big pharma, the manufacturers who are making these medications. And they don't get nearly the amount of blame that they need to for like drug prices and setting prices and just I feel like the anger that is generated in the general public toward medications in general is disproportionately levied against big pharma versus something like Optum or Express Scripts. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, they're hiding in the shadows.
They are.
Very well.
Are you okay? Because I'm not in any of these fields. Okay, so I'm kind of the foil here. But are you saying that big pharma kind of is used as a scapegoat by these PBMs? Is that accurate?
Well, I don't, maybe not directly, but I think that it's just big pharma is a like a term that people use to just generate anger
Yeah.
around
Just
the healthcare
anything
system.
related to
Like,
pharmaceuticals goes in this
it's
big
got to be
pharma
big
bucket.
pharma, and it's big pharma. It's Eli Lilly. It's Pfizer. It's these greedy billion-dollar corporations. And I'm not saying that those like big pharma companies are faultless
Okay.
in setting insulin prices and things like you mentioned, Morgan. But there's this other thing
Right.
that's this
That people
huge
don't really
wrench
know
in the
about.
system that people don't know about, and so they kind of skirt
They're
under the
happy
surface.
to have people not know
Oh yeah,
about
they
them.
I'm sure they love it. Like, yeah, it's big pharma. They're the ones for sure.
Yeah. So wait, if we're back in the fish analogy, are they like the the bottom feeders or what?
Yeah, they're the little parasitic organisms
Yes,
that
yeah.
that clean the
Clean
teeth
inside
of
the
the.
You're supposed to pick them out before you cook the fish.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it must be frustrating for someone like you, Morgan. I mean, you're not. I'm not saying you're synonymous with big pharma, but someone in the pharmaceutical industry who might, receive
Especially
the
more on
ire.
like the science side.
Yeah, the
and
science side of
yeah.
things to have that kind of criticism in your field.
Yeah, it's interesting. And over the past few years, there's an increased sensitivity around the term scientist or researcher.
Yeah.
Like I've done a few campaigns with like public health divisions for a couple of different states. And at one point they were like, don't use the term scientists. Like, don't say scientists have shown that this is safe, because that evoked like mistrust in what you were saying. Use the word researchers instead of
Isn't
scientists.
that wild? Oh my God.
And so
All right.
it's sort of ballooned over the past few years. It is
Yeah.
interesting, like you were saying, Kristen, there's no room for nuance in short form
Yeah.
video content. Like your video is going to flop if you even add 10 seconds of justification for something you're saying. And so you can spend 9 out of 10 videos talking about the value of nutrition and fruits and vegetables and exercise and good sleep and stress management. Then you make the 10th video talking about how like, oh yeah, this vaccine is safe and effective and the benefits outweigh the risks. And on that 10th video, your comments are going to be like, you big pharma, go tell them to do, all the things you tell them to do in the other 9 videos.
Right.
But none of that really connects, because each video you see is so isolated. It used to be, you would see a lot of videos mostly curated within the group of people that you follow. But now every platform obviously is totally algorithmic. It's the For You page style of content where every video is sort of in isolation and often totally unrelated to the one you might see next.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that way, about separating it out of its context when it's algorithm based. But that is a big problem.
Yeah. And you started making your content, I mean, like many of us, around the pandemic, right? That's when you
early
kind of got
2020.
onto TikTok. And it's the idea of using TikTok as a way that's educational as opposed to entertaining, and trying to find that mix. I find that's one of the more difficult things for science communicators. And can you speak to that a little bit, and how you developed your style and kind of the trial and error that you did as someone who's trying to be educational, and the challenges that you've faced doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is the classic tension, is because in your scientific training, you get trained how to stand up there and do a 30-minute or 60-minute seminar for a group of scientists who are stuck sitting in the chair anyway, are going to keep listening to you regardless of how entertaining you are.
You don't get stand-up training in your PhD program?
Improv.
I think you should, honestly.
Was there a comedy class? I don't know.
No, you get points. You don't get
Little
points for being
improv.
funny. You get points for asking like harsh and rude questions.
Right.
So it doesn't
Sure.
prepare you very well for social media, which is the exact opposite, where
Yeah.
people come to TikTok and Instagram and YouTube or whatever to be entertained. They're not often coming for the purpose of seeking out information on immunology or what have you. And so, we're kind of shoot into the entertainment role. You can talk about, if there's a topic that people are super worried about, like back at the time, COVID, you can do a boring educational video and people will watch it just because of the intrinsic value. But if you're trying to talk about heart disease or something, and it's relatively not like as interesting, you have to fuse it with some other type of entertainment. You have to be, dancing or doing camera movements or doing it with a trend or something, just to try to hold people's interest long enough to communicate what you're trying to.
How are your dance moves these days?
They are not great, but I think embracing that
That
is
can be entertaining too.
Yeah.
yeah. You
I
know,
mean,
as part of the shtick, I've started doing some videos. I start the video by saying like, POV, we're dancing at a party, and then I just like say stuff while doing dance moves, kind of like this, and there's no music or anything, but just the fact that you're doing this actually keeps people watching a lot longer than
Yes.
if you were
And if
doing
you're
nothing at
only
all.
listening and not watching, just imagine the whitest white boy dance you can think of, and that's what's happening here.
Yep. Call this one the
Like, it's
East Coast
great.
icebreaker.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think he looks fantastic. It's just you got the moves, man.
He's got moves about
It's
like
good.
yours.
Yeah, we're
Except
very
you've
similar.
got some hip action.
If
You can get the
I,
hips going.
oh, thank you. See, you hear that? I can get the hips going. See, it's not just jokes. I should dance more in my
Yeah.
content. I don't
Yeah,
know.
leave the arms and legs out of it though. Just
You should
focus
honestly
on
try it. I tried it sort of on a whim one time, and then literally like tenfold more views on that particular video. Same type of information as I would usually present, just sitting there
Yeah.
talking to the camera. A little bit of dancing can work some magic.
Yeah. Have you cracked the code yet on what's going to hit and what's not on TikTok? Because I'm still
Yeah.
befuddled.
Oh no, it's always, you know,
Like I saw
sometimes
a couple of videos of yours that, and you weren't dancing. You're just giving like very succinct explanations of things like ibuprofen and like how it works.
Mhm.
I love that video.
Yeah. I don't remember if that was the one that we weren't dancing. I don't know if you were dancing in that one, but in dancing quotation marks. It's a very loosely described as dancing, I would say. But there's some of your videos where it's just you're just 1 minute like giving really succinct, accurate information, and even those are hitting though. Like some of you get like 800,000 views on something like that. You're like, what is the trick here? What is the and I mean, if
I
we
mean,
could
the
all game the
ibuprofen
algorithm.
video, I think, is what it made me laugh so hard. And it's informative, but it was in the way you delivered it because it was like, oh, you'll know better than I would, but like there were no complete grammatically correct sentences, right? A lot of it reminded me of how I have to talk to you. Like take out any extra filler words like
That's
a, the, whatever, and just leave what's,
good.
has the most value left. And it's like, how does ibuprofen know where hurt?
I love it.
Ibuprofen know where hurt.
Yeah,
Kind of
and I
reminded
think
me of an
that's-
orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That's part of the like entertainment thing is like
So
trying to
good.
force a way to deliver it and like takes people by surprise and like, oh, what is he talking about? Why is he talking like that? Oh, wait,
Right.
this is actually interesting information. You have to make
Right.
it through the first 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The surprise factor is a big part of it. I mean, that's a big part of comedy in general.
Right.
It's just you say something that people weren't expecting and in a way that they're not expecting, and that's what generates a laugh. And so,
Right.
yeah, I
And you
think
do a
maybe
great
that's the
job with
key.
this. I mean, I think the brilliance of the skit format is people know instantly when they see a skit. They're like, oh, this is going to be good, right? This is,
Yeah.
I'm expecting this to be well thought out. And I know there's going to be a punchline at some point. And once they've seen one of your skits, they know what to expect from there on in the rest of the skits. So it's
Yeah,
really brilliant in that, like, you set it up within half a second, they know what to expect.
Right. Yeah. And setting expectations is like a huge part of it. And then also just tricking people into learning things.
Right.
Like that's it. If you want to
That's what making
edutainment.
yes, that's what making
Content.
information entertaining does. Is it sort of tricks people into learning, but in a benevolent way,
Yeah.
Have
for
you
their own good.
Have you ever felt like quitting social media at times? Have there like what obviously because you've posted a lot of content about vaccines and COVID. You've done research on COVID and everything. So, but I imagine there have been some dark moments with your social media presence. I know I've had those.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Oh,
everybody's
absolutely.
got their horror stories.
Certainly during the height of COVID, while making a lot of content about COVID and COVID vaccines,
Yeah.
as you would imagine, the type of comments and DMs and emails you get for making what you try to make as neutral and evidence-based as possible.
Mhm.
That's not as much fun as making fun content about ibuprofen or about insulin prices or stuff. So I've never actually thought about quitting, but certainly I have slowed my pace, and I've felt less enthusiasm for making content at times.
Yeah. I've felt that.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
you
it's no
just-
fun when you're trying to entertain or inform or do something good for people, and then the response that you get is basically a whole bunch of people slapping you in the face. Like who would want to continue doing that?
Well, it's like I always remind myself, sir, like this is free like
Right.
I am delivering my brain thoughts like directly into your phone at no cost to you. And this is what you're saying about me. I mean, disagreeing is one thing, right? Like pushing back on something, but that's not how it's done on social media.
Right.
Mhm.
It ends up being like, a lot of personal attacks, and that it always sucks to, you can get used to seeing that and dealing with that, but it never feels good.
No,
Right.
it wears you down over time. And I don't know. I mean, how
it
long
does.
does it take you to ideate and film and edit a video? Typically.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten faster at it. It depends on the subject. I tried to one. I think the longest I've ever spent on a video is when I did one about pharmacy benefit managers. Actually, I had to do research because I did learn like what they were, and that was like, it took a couple days to write the script alone and then filming it. But I can. It takes time. Is the point, right?
Yeah, and you end up with a 1 minute video, and then if you get a lot of hateful comments on that video, or the video flops or something, that can feel like, oh, why did I invest dozens of hours into doing this the best I could, and then
Yeah.
no one liked it.
Right.
What is
Basically.
what is one of the more memorable DMs or emails that you've received?
Oh, I have a clear answer for this actually. In fact, there's only one that I really remember, which makes this easy. It was, I don't do many live streams anymore, but I used to, sort of back in the height of COVID. And I had just finished doing a live stream talking about, this was right after the COVID vaccines had rolled out. So I was describing the recent evidence on the efficacy and the safety and, how they were being produced, which is what I typically did at the time. And it was right after that live stream ended. My wife was about to get home from the hospital. So at the end I said, like, sorry, I've got to go cook dinner or something. My wife's about to get home. And then like 30 minutes after that, maybe someone sent me a message and they were like, I wasn't really sure whether to believe you. Until you said you were going to go cook your wife dinner, basically. Like I realized you were just a person and you're doing your best like everyone else
That's not where I
is
thought
doing.
that was going.
No, the
good.
point was, and actually this is a lesson that stuck with me to this day on social media, is people are looking for human connection. They're looking to build relationships with people who they can then trust. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you show, research articles on the screen or you cite the CDC or the FDA or something. I think what's really helpful is building what feels like a real relationship with people. And so doing funny dances or talking about food you cook or dumb jokes or stuff. I think all of that belongs, even if you're a professional in the work world, all of that should be present as part of your social media channel. You shouldn't try to keep it totally sterile, because I think those are critical parts of building the authenticity to show people, you're just a regular person. You're doing the best you can. This is your honest interpretation of the evidence, which at that time was about the COVID vaccines. And
Right.
so I wouldn't have thought, like, in a scientist mindset, that shouldn't be what convinces someone to get a COVID vaccine. It's not that I'm going to cook dinner for my wife. It's all the evidence I was just talking about. But in reality, it may be exactly the opposite.
Yeah, well, both, right? But like people, so many thoughts about all this. First of all, this gets to what we always try to do, right? Which is highlight that before anyone is a physician, a nurse, a researcher, whatever, we are all just human. And sometimes we forget that when we're talking about the areas in which we practice professionally, right? Because we are so trained in the professional sphere into these tiny little boxes of how you have to talk about things. And in the research world you have to be so super specific and just, and it's always the exact opposite of what you need to do when you're speaking just as a human to another human. Nobody wants to hear somebody that sounds like a robot trying to convince them to go do something that they are afraid of. They want to know that it's the human, right? So the way that we make decisions as people, we like to think of ourselves as rational thinkers, But decision making actually happens emotionally first, and then we rationalize to ourselves in order to justify the decision that we're making. And all of this is happening in like milliseconds and we're not like aware of it. But that's how people work. So if you're trying to
I
only
don't think that
communicate
fast, so
to them,
it's happening much slower for
you
me,
can
I
watch
think.
it in real time. You can
Yes.
see it
See
unfold.
my
I believe that.
neurotransmitters
Yeah.
traversing my
Boop,
synaptic cleft.
boop, boop.
That's right.
Yep. But, if you're trying to just like only rationalize with people, only present to them the evidence and the logic and the why aren't you doing this? It makes so much sense. That's a good clue that it's actually an emotional thing that's happening. And you need to get to what is the emotion under there that is preventing them from wanting to use that logic in the way that it makes sense to you. And I think that's exactly why, people are looking for authenticity and human connection, like you're saying, and why the fact that, you're just a person who's a nice guy going to go cook his wife dinner after her work day. It wasn't just that, it was the evidence you presented, but that piece was what allowed that person to, that is what dealt with the emotional, fear or uncertainty or whatever it is that they had that allowed them then to hear what the evidence was saying. And I think that is what a lot of professionals, scientists, physicians, what have you, get wrong about science communication is they think that you can just hit people over the head. And no, you have to address this human emotional side first.
Yeah. That's a
Off
good
my
point.
soapbox. I'm done.
No, I think you're totally right.
Yeah. I think that maybe that's what, maybe we should all be doing more content while going about our daily lives. Like make a video while you're brushing your teeth, Morgan. Like, I don't know, have a bubble bath and
Have a bubble bath.
and talk about some kind of kidney disease. I don't know. Just
No,
I'm
I
just
think
throwing
you're
this. These are
100%
free
right.
ideas to whoever's listening. Maybe that's why get ready with me videos
Yeah, because
are
it's
so
like
popular.
something that everybody does. It's relatable.
Yeah.
And it just it's like parallel play, right? Like we have that as adults too, of just you want to feel like there's someone in the room keeping you company and you're chatting.
Also,
you know?
Morgan, can you stop showing off that you can like cook and stuff? Like,
I didn't say it was a tasty meal.
Yeah.
It was warm.
all right, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with Dr. Knock, Morgan McSweeney PhD. Great name, by the way.
It really is.
It's fantastic.
It's like a character.
Are there a lot of McSweeneys out there?
Not too many.
All right. Well, here's a question for you that actually you posed to me, or you sent to us, I should say, but I'm really interested in knowing the answer. Why do you always have to put on proper PPE in the lab, even if you think you don't need it?
No. It's the same reason why I always lock my door when I leave. Even if I'm just going for 2 seconds out and I'm going to be right back in, I always lock it.
I'm one of these people.
The reason why,
Because I wouldn't do that.
yeah, it's to build it so it's totally rote habit, so that when you do actually need it, or you forget to check the oven or something when you leave, it's just automatic. So in the lab, what that looks like is you may be sitting there, I'm just moving around what is basically water with a harmless chemical in it. Surely I don't need a splash guard or to wear closed-toed shoes. And you don't in that moment. But what may happen, as happened to one of my former coworkers, is one day you may be working with a herpes virus in the biosafety containment thing. And you may be wearing sandals instead of closed-toed shoes. And you may spill herpes virus all over your toes.
Oh, no.
This is a true story. And so the reason why you don't need PPE a lot of the time when you're thinking to yourself, do I really need to be wearing this right now? But what you 100% need is the rote habit of wearing PPE so that when you do need it, you're wearing it.
That's a good lesson, and exactly why I wear safety glasses everywhere I go.
Mhm.
Driving car, brushing my teeth,
Drinking your coffee.
You never know. What happened? What does a herpes foot look like?
Herpes foot.
I don't think anything. I think if you have a cut or an abrasion, then
Then it's a problem.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
gotcha.
on something like a foot, you may not realize you do too. So I don't know. I hope it turned out okay for the person.
I think it did. But
Okay,
it
good.
was a good
No,
example thereafter for all the high school students that would come in to do internships in the lab,
uh-huh.
to say, yes, you really do need to wear your goggles.
Well,
You
I
don't
was
want
about to
herpes
say,
foot.
I was about to say that's a thing you learn. I feel like I learned that in high school. Like no open-toed shoes.
Yeah, you do. You learn that in like chemistry
Yeah.
class or yeah.
So anyway,
But I think a lot of people think it's over the top, unnecessary, and
until you get herpes foot.
exactly.
That's right.
All right. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a game called Oral Defense.
Oh boy.
Does that strike terror immediately? Just
Yeah.
bring back all the PTSD.
We are defending orally the masses against misinformation. All right. That's what a lot of us do who know a lot about a particular thing. And so I'm going to bring up 7, these are quick fire, 7 things, and we're going to protect the masses against misinformation, okay?
I'm
All right,
glad
here
to
we
hear
go.
this. To be honest, first I thought you were going to ask me questions about dentistry when you were talking
Oh,
about
boy.
oral defense.
What do
I
you
was
know
like,
about dentistry?
It's
Are
not
you a
very
big-
much.
Your wife, you said your wife's a physician. What specialty?
She's a fellow in pediatric endocrinology.
Okay, so also not dentistry.
Fellow in
Anyway.
pediatric. So that's roughly like 37 years of training. That's about right for that? Almost there, hopefully.
I would have to add it all up, but yeah, we're over 10 by now.
Something like that. Okay. All right, we're going to defend the masses against misinformation here. Number 1, if you have a scrape, you should let it air out.
Incorrect. No, it should be moist and clean, but covered.
Why do we think it should air out?
Where does that come from?
So people used to think, oh, bacteria thrive in moist environments. Therefore, we should let it air out. We'll get a nice little scab. It'll eventually heal. It will eventually heal, but the scab actually is your body's way of creating a moist and clean and covered environment.
Mhm.
And it turns out bacteria do grow in moist environments. But you know what else works really well in moist environments? Your immune cells. And so this has been exhaustively studied at this point. There's not an increased risk of infection from having a clean and moistly covered abrasion compared to a dry one.
Okay, so
That's
the
a good
key is
point.
just make sure it's clean.
Yeah.
That will keep the bacteria out
Okay.
rather than the dryness.
Counterpoint, sometimes it kind of hurts to put like a Band-Aid on a scratch and you just want to like not have
Counterpoint.
anything touch it. But
Yeah.
but I mean, scientifically speaking, I get it.
Yeah, and the big one is, so if you're putting something like Vaseline or Aquaphor or something, it doesn't actually have to be medicated. A lot of people will use Neosporin or something with
Neosporin.
antibiotics in it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be. It's not
Right.
safer
I've
from
heard-
an infection standpoint. Can cause hypersensitivities in some people.
Okay.
Obviously, if your doctor recommends using a medicated one
Right.
because you already have an infection or something, then go for it.
I've definitely heard from dermatologists like
People don't like Neosporin anymore.
the triple antibiotic ointments that you get over the counter, like they're
Yeah.
not helpful.
There goes our Neosporin sponsorship. So, sorry,
It's
guys.
okay. It's all right. That's big pharma, right? We don't need that. We don't want that. No. Neosporin, big
is
Neosporin.
Neosporin big
I don't
pharma?
know. It doesn't. I don't know who makes Neosporin.
Probably
but-
is.
No, like there's like what, like 3 big pharma? How many big pharmas are there, Morgan?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to guess
Are there less
6.
than 10? So yeah, there's like, a handful. I don't know. We
Okay.
could probably
I
name
have
them
no
all.
idea,
Anyway.
yeah.
All right. Number 2, defending the masses against misinformation. Ibuprofen knows where to go.
Incorrect. Ibuprofen goes through your entire body, and you only notice it where there was pain.
That's right.
You know the
Yes.
enzyme that it blocks? This is another good part of
Oh,
talking
man,
about
this is like step 1 of COX 2?
That's
COX
right.
1? COX 2? Is
COX
that
2.
it?
Wow.
One of the Coxes.
Well,
That
it's
was
actually
in there
not.
buried.
Well,
Dang,
the
I
one
brought
that's
it out.
important for the pain is the COX-2, but it's not very selective. But when you're talking about ibuprofen and you say it blocks COX, it's a COX blocker. There you go. You got a good performing video.
Fantastic. That's 1 million views right there. That's
Oh,
good.
boy.
Cox, see, I can occasionally bring the things that are outside the eyeball. Like
get a
I'm
little, get a
impressed.
broom
yeah.
and sweep out back there. Something pops out.
Okay, sometimes I still got it. Ask me anything about the photoreceptors. I'm your man. But again, below the nasal bridge, it's a struggle for me. Okay, so number 3, recycling plastic will save the world. It was a good one.
Ooh, I don't think so, unfortunately. My impression is that the fraction of plastic that you recycle that gets recycled in the way you think it gets recycled is a small fraction. It doesn't mean it's not worth doing. But unfortunately, I think due to economic misalignments. It's often cheaper to use new plastic and discard a lot of the plastic we think is getting recycled may not actually truly be getting recycled.
Really?
So, okay, but
Okay.
I want to break down the nuance here. So, we're not saying okay. So, in theory though, like in a hypothetical, 100% of the plastic that we produce we end up recycling, would that save the world? And the issue is just that's not what's happening,
Is that what you're saying?
or is it that even if we recycled 100% of plastic, it doesn't do much good?
Yeah, well, this is a good example. I don't have that much expertise here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My tangential scientific hunch is that it would certainly help. It's hard to get there because
Yeah.
some types of plastics are either too thin or too dirty to effectively recycle, or it would be very expensive to do so. I think a big part of it is economic. Like you could theoretically efficiently recycle this entire bottle, but if it's cheaper to not do so with all the shipping and everything back and forth, then
Yeah.
maybe people don't. There are some things that do get really effectively recycled. Aluminum is one of them. I think there's a few more examples. Not an expert there.
I have no more blind trust. I think the thing I trust the most in life, without even thinking about it, is the sanitation company that takes our our
Trash and
recycling
recycling.
bin away. And like I feel like I'm doing a great thing. I'm recycling, and just like, oh well, I assume everything is happening the way it's supposed to down the line. But you're absolutely right. Like that's one of those things you don't even think about. Like it's just, I mean, they're I'm
Right.
sure there are limitations to what they can do, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
But what I don't want people to walk away from is like, well, I
Don't
heard that
recycle. No,
exactly.
you should definitely
right.
recycle.
No, still
But
recycle.
the point is,
We could have a better system.
we may
could do
not be
better.
recycling as efficiently as we think we are.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the
So,
dark side
anyway.
of this is that who is a very big proponent of pro-recycling messaging is companies that produce plastic, actually. Because if you were fully aware of the percent of plastic that does effectively get recycled, you might be less inclined to purchase new single-use plastic items in the future.
Oh,
So
so
the
you
people
might
who-
reuse things instead of just tossing them in the recycle and then buy a new one.
Right. Or, you might be
Oh,
okay with paying a little bit more for other materials. And so there have actually been some
Yeah.
pretty big PR campaigns from these, plastic type of companies that are very like pro-recycling campaigns because they want people to feel like it's okay if I use a lot of plastics, I'll just recycle it.
Oh, that's so nefarious.
What can you believe anymore?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe anything anybody says. All right, here we go. GMOs are inherently bad for you.
Ooh, no. Definitely not the case for you in terms of your health. I have no concern eating GMO corn or whatever other products.
Neither do I. I love it.
Now, there is something to be said for the environmental impact of GMOs. And so this is the part that I don't know as much about. On the health side, I'm not concerned. On the environment side, you get these big monocultures of crops that are dependent on these specific pesticides that leak off into neighboring, plots or watersheds. The environmental impact of all of that, I have no idea about. I suspect is probably negative. But in terms of my health, I'm not looking for the GMO label on foods one way or the other. In fact, they can be helpful. Like there's the special, you may know this better than me, there's a special type of rice that they've engineered to have maybe it's vitamin A. I don't know what it is, but you can do some really neat things with engineering.
Right. What is it that people are afraid of here? Let's break that down. Like they think because it's
GMOs.
got like it's some kind of mutant DNA and it's gonna mess up your DNA.
Yeah,
like where do we go wrong here?
Turn into a carrot. I don't know.
Carrot, there's the eyesight connection.
Yeah,
That's right.
There you go.
Which vitamin is that? Is that vitamin A?
It's vitamin A.
You
Yeah.
got it. Well, I mean, there's lots of vitamins in carrots. Vitamin A, vitamin C, but yeah, vitamin A is the one.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just housing a fistful of carrots every day.
But this is your turn for the misinformation
No,
thing.
so the misinformation there is that you can get vitamin A from so many things, and carrots being one of them. But you don't have to force your kids to eat carrots because they'll get vitamin A from other places. It's just, I mean, the carotene. There's lots of vegetables that have that. So it's and it doesn't
Wasn't
take
the
much.
origin of the carrot story something in World War II? I
Oh
seem
God,
to
I don't
recall.
even that now. I don't even know. That's something I should look up though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was, don't quote me on this, I think it was in the UK. They had just developed some type of radar to detect enemy planes at night, and they didn't want other people to know they had this radar, so they said, we're giving our pilots lots of carrots. That's how they
Oh God.
shot your plane down. It's not because we have this secret technology.
We're just making their eyesight better.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, it's just like normal diet that you'll get all the vitamins that you need. That's the thing. And the you too much of vitamin A can cause problems, too little can cause problems,
Yeah.
just like any vitamin. It's
There's
Right.
another big industry, big
oh yeah,
Big
supplement.
vitamin,
for
big
sure.
supplement, yeah.
Oh man, that's everywhere. Supplementation, all that.
Yeah.
That's a huge area of misinformation. Yeah. It's like just eat a variety of things, right? Like the supplements, you're just gonna pee them out. That's just like very expensive urine. That's what you're buying there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right.
Well, but it's not so black and white again, because some people are actually deficient in something, and for them, they might need to supplement that thing together
Sure.
with their doctor.
Sure. Yeah. No,
But
absolutely. Like the vitamin supplementation exists for a reason in the
right.
medical
But like
field.
most things, it has gone rampant because there is profit to be made in
Like if you're bleeding
making
out
people
of
believe that they need it.
if you're bleeding out of your orifices and your gums are bloody, maybe you need to eat an orange because you might have
You might
scurvy.
have scurvy.
Like
right.
that's a thing, but I would not trust anybody selling you vitamins on social media.
Right.
No
To
way.
tell you why you need
Like
it.
I feel 100% confident I can make that blanket statement. That is a scam, 100%.
Do you know the range for affiliate kickbacks from supplement companies?
Oh, I
Oh,
don't.
it must be high.
I've seen as high as 50%.
Wow.
So when you see an influencer selling you a $50 monthly supply of the vitamin, fully half of that potentially is straight to the influencer. The other half is to the vitamin company, who themselves are making whatever X profit. Not
There
that
you
there's
go.
anything that doesn't say anything about the value of supplements. Evidence does say something about the value of supplements, which that most people don't need them.
Right.
Certainly
Right.
some people can benefit, but in a lot of cases when you're taking, this herb and that herb and this herb all together because you saw it on social media, probably you don't need to. No,
Right.
it may be helpful as a placebo, and this is a totally
Sure.
different, like if you take
Different thing.
this placebo and you think it helps you sleep better, and then you do fall asleep instantly and sleep for 8 hours or something,
Yeah.
and it's not causing you harm, then
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah, I think I see some placebos in my field with blue light blocking glasses.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of claims about blue light glasses, and they're just having blue light blocking technology in your glasses is not harmful to you. And I think some patients do get, but there's no data that shows that it helps with eye
Yeah.
strain with it. But I do feel like there's some placebo with stuff like that. And it's like, here's what I know about the data,
Yeah.
about what we know as a scientific community. Sorry, I'm not supposed to use the word scientific. As a
Research community.
researching community, here's what I know about blue light blocking technology. If you use
Yeah.
it, it's not going to hurt you, but it's not going to do the thing they're claiming to do.
Right.
That's kind of how I approach it with
Yeah.
patients. So,
Yeah.
All right, here's one. Aspartame causes cancer.
I heard this a lot growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we have that kind of evidence.
What
No,
was it that led to
but this
that?
is-
Like people don't think these things for no reason. So what was it that?
Wasn't it like this scare about artificial sweeteners and drinks and stuff, like Diet Coke and things? I'm not sure when it started, but
I don't know the origin either. Nor I have looked at some of the meta-analyses on the health effects of aspartame, but not recently, and so
all right.
cautious to
So
talk
but-
about
But
it.
like
That's
from the
okay.
science. Well, I guess you're talking about the science. I'm just curious. Like there must have been some research probably got put in the media because that's usually where these things go wrong.
Sure.
Is how the media presents the research that suggested some correlation between aspartame and cancer, maybe like in mice or something. Like I'm just curious where it all starts. That then it goes off the rails.
I do feel fairly confident in saying like Diet Coke's there's no direct link to Diet Coke and cancer. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
The
one of those things that
ophthalmologist
would
is
be
confident saying that.
yeah, for things that are consumed so broadly as that would be so easy to find even a small effect
Yeah.
size. That
Right.
gives me some confidence there. But what you're saying about the media and the mice, I mean, this is like red wine. Like people think red wine is helpful because
Right.
there may be some mechanistic studies that show, oh, the resveratrol, this antioxidant compound in red wine, because it comes from the grapes, is protective if you add a huge dose of it in cell culture to these cells. But when you combine it with all the other stuff in alcohol, I mean, alcohol itself is not an antioxidant. It's an oxidant. And so the
Yeah.
sum of all those things means that actually the red wine is not as helpful as you would have thought it was. In fact, it
Yeah,
can
maybe
be
just eat some
the
grapes.
reverse. Maybe eat some
Right.
grapes. But
It's
there
like-
is evidence that if you take out that ingredient from red wine, it
Mhm.
is a potent antioxidant and it has all these benefits. But that's not true when you look at the study of what happens when people, actually drink it.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's taking it from the bench science to the translational side, like you're talking about. That the media is not very good at that,
Well,
but they do it a lot.
Yeah, and then you end up with an article like, it's studies have shown
Yep.
3 cups of coffee a day will keep you from getting prostate cancer. Like the
But
Right.
4 is lethal.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. This for the LD50 of caffeine is 18 pots of coffee a day. All right, last one here. Vaccines cause you to become magnetized.
What?
That's a thing people talk about.
Yeah, there was
I've seen
brief, but there's a fervor about this. It was a very passionate discussion around vaccine magnetization for a while. I mean, first of all, they don't.
Right.
But people were taking magnets and sticking them to their arm where they got vaccinated, and they would stick, which can be very convincing. If you are entering this self-experiment thinking maybe this is true, and then you try it and it works, then you're like, oh, it didn't work on my other arm, but it did work on this arm for whatever reason. And that other reason may be that the arm was a little moist or whatever it may have happened. I actually made a mistake making content about this back when this was happening a lot. I kind of made fun of the fact because to me at the time it seemed like ridiculous that you would think that vaccines could cause you to become magnetic. And so I was making fun of the fact that maybe that would be the case. And I learned a lot of people were genuinely afraid that was happening. It was like a real fear that people were having, and it came across as insensitive. So that actually has colored the content I've made since then, which is no matter how obvious something may seem to you, and you may have a lot of training in something, so it may not be obvious to everyone else. You have to approach it from a inclusive and sensitive standpoint, because you never know.
Right.
If someone is truly terrified that they might have been magnetized, they don't want to see a video making fun of the fact that, magnets could stick to you because of vaccines.
Right.
That's
Gets
a-
back to what I was saying before.
that's a
You have
fantastic
to
point.
address the emotion first, and then you can present the facts.
Oh, that's true.
I got a question,
That's
though.
a good point,
Got a little
though.
thought experiment. I think it'd be kind of cool to be magnetized. Would it be bad?
Is it a bad thing to be magnetized?
What if we were all Magneto?
It could be deadly to get an MRI. I'm just
Okay,
saying,
so I'll stay away from MRIs. But aside from that, I don't know. I think I could have a lot of
Well, the
reminders on myself. Might help.
the Earth
Walk by your
itself
fridge
has
and
a
get stuck to
magnetic
the
field.
fridge.
Yeah,
Well,
it'd
true.
be kind of I think
You
it'd
might
be
just
a
get stuck to the ground.
significant challenge in your
Okay.
life to be
All right.
to
Well, but does it depend? How magnetized are you?
do we
One
have
vaccine or 10?
do we individually all have our own magnetic field? I don't know.
Probably.
Now we're getting into
Well, maybe we could orient ourselves like pigeons. Don't they use the Earth's?
Oh,
That's true.
You don't need Google Maps
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, and I'm much better at navigating
Uh-huh.
around the world than you are. So
We're-
am I more magnetized,
we
do
are
you think?
very close to contributing to misinformation on this podcast. I believe.
I said it's a thought experiment. I did not say it was real. And then what if you had what if this feeling of I don't know, I just click with the person is my magnetic field and your magnetic field are compatible in some way. I'm just saying maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing to be magnetized, but you did make some compelling points about being stuck to the ground. So
Yeah, I don't want to do that. But Morgan, I do want to say it's really such a good point. I just want to reiterate that what you said about addressing these concerns that people have, because in the end, like, I think a lot of people's frustration about misinformation, it's obviously it's the sources of the misinformation that we're so angry with and we're frustrated with, that we have to hear these people who are talking about things they shouldn't be talking about under the pretense of expertise.
Hmm.
And that's the where the frustration gets, and on our I don't want to say resentment's a strong word, but our debunking efforts need to be directed toward them, and not toward maybe the susceptible people who don't have a medical background or a scientific background, who are more prone to believe something because someone says it very confidently,
Mhm.
right?
Well, and that's it's that trend that it's a little bit old now, but the red flags, green flags, all of that that's going around. I feel like there needs to be that for like scientific literacy, right? Like here's a red flag. If someone is making money off of selling you a thing, maybe double check
If
with
they have
other
yeah,
sources whether that is accurate,
if
what
they have
they're
a course
saying.
at the end of
Well, I
their
don't want to just vilify courses or vilify people
If they're
being
selling you a contagion
entrepreneurial.
kit
But
for
like if they are
$300.
generating
Yeah,
fear that something is wrong with you
sure,
and then selling you something that they say will fix that thing, that's a red flag. That's
right.
like a
Oh yeah.
go check that out with someone who's not selling you that stuff but would have the expertise to know. Versus a
I
green
like
flag,
that.
like how do you know what the red flags and green flags are? I think, there's some good content that people like you, Morgan, might be able to create around, how do we teach people what is good information and what's bad
Yeah,
information?
I like the flag system.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morgan, you got to run with that. Let's
Yeah, no, I think this is a great
get
idea.
get the flag system going. You have different colors too,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like yellow flag, like
White flag, just walk away.
they're like the yellow flag. They're dabbling and a little bit of
Getting a little
get a little bit
dicey.
outside your. It's like if I start talking about
I
like
think
the best type
any
of joint surgery to get,
right.
it's
But
Yellow.
phrasing it as a question.
I'm just saying, maybe we can do knee transplants with chimpanzees. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Just asking
I think that
questions.
the operative phrase there was I don't know.
Okay, that's true. Absolutely.
But yeah,
Anyway.
somebody who sounds like they know what they're talking about and
Yeah.
you think they might because they are a doctor. That could be like a yellow flag, right? It's like
Sure.
what you're saying. Yes, he's a doctor, but he's an ophthalmologist. So
Yeah.
he doesn't know anything about monkeys or knees.
What's the next couple of videos you're going to do? What's floating around in your brain before we go?
Oh, I don't know what your system is for planning video ideas. In my notes app, I've just got a running list of video ideas.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Okay, I've got one. I don't know if I can pull this one off, but it's how much of the totality of human achievement to date is due to coffee.
I like it.
If you
That's
can
good.
imagine some incremental productivity benefit due to coffee, how
Yeah.
much does that add up to over time if it's sort of exponential? I probably won't make that because I don't know how to answer it, but I think it's a cool
You
question.
could look at different countries, coffee versus tea drinkers. Which ones were more productive because they had more
Ooh.
caffeine?
That's interesting. We've got, okay, is alcohol or caffeine a, quote, stronger drug?
Mm.
And the
Oh.
answer is caffeine.
Hmm.
Because
That's a good
if you
one.
think of the dose, like in grams versus milligrams of each drug, it's actually a pretty huge difference. Some of these, you write down in your sleep in the middle of the night and they don't make any sense.
Right.
Oh, I have so many of them. I was just going to tell you that. Like, I've got one that just says Santa's Elves Oncology. I don't know. I don't know
does
what
that
that means. I wrote that down in my notes app, and it's. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Ooh, more
Med
attractive
school
with Parasite.
more
Oh.
attractive with pairs. I don't like that. Here's one. Med school prof giving lecture to nobody.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what that video idea is.
That just sounds like it could possibly be the reality today.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it.
I felt the potential when you said it, not even knowing what you were going to do with it. It sounds like a good idea.
And then another one I just wrote down, heart murmur. Like what? What is that? I don't know. I'm so bad at doing this. I just, so anyway. All right. Well,
I'm intrigued by the parasite idea. I think you should keep trying to figure that one out.
that's
No, there
good.
is. That's a
More
thing.
attractive.
There is a parasite where people who have it, it's the one you get from cats. It's
Oh,
oh gosh,
Oh, is that
the one you're worried about if you're pregnant and you get it for the first time.
Toxoplasmosis.
Yeah,
toxoplasmosis? Yeah.
people who are infected with toxoplasmosis are like quantitatively rated as being a little bit more attractive than people who are not, and it's associated with
Interesting.
like
How about
risk
that?
taking. There's like a whole host of things that people
Yeah,
think may be due to this latent parasitic infection you've got for the rest of your life.
Question: does toxoplasmosis, is it able to spread sexually?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think it's
Like, is there some evolutionary
I
bent
think it's got to get in
here?
your blood.
I don't know. I think it
Well-
makes like so the cats get it. Rats or something get it from cats. I'm gonna botch this probably,
It's-
but I think if the rats take more risks, then they're more likely to go near cats or something, and then it
Okay.
feeds into
Yeah.
the cycle of
Yeah. But like by the time it's in a human, is that maybe like is the virus trying to take advantage of like a sexual reproduction system among humans to then spread itself to another human?
maybe. I think it may be we're caught in the crossfire from rodents. Would be my guess. Like it makes the mice go seek out cat urine. And then we're just humans are like, that litter box is strangely seductive.
On that note, I think we
Yeah.
should wrap up. No, thank you so much for joining us, Morgan. So where can people find you? Let people know where they can see your stuff here.
So dr.noc, Dr. Knock on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah, check it out. Keep it up. I love the videos. Yeah, the ibuprofen one's good.
Oh, it's so good.
It
One
really
of
is.
my
It's
like
such a good-
top internet videos ever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you just want to ride that one as long like you could because you could do so many like that, right? I don't know how many,
Yeah.
It's
but
probably a good idea to go back and do so.
that's
Yeah,
what you
make it
do.
a little
Get one that
series.
hits and then you can just do that same model different time. I mean, I've
Mhm.
done that for so many of my videos and
Yeah.
people like
Yeah.
it.
You
and-
might need a couple more models. I'm just saying.
Oh, am I running
It's a
out of
little stale.
ideas? Eesh, yeah.
No, you
Through
read
the
the
Olympics,
notepad
I got to
there.
come out with some more stuff. All right. Well, thanks for that. Anyway, yeah, keep it up. We'll be following along. And thanks again for coming on.
Pleasure chatting. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Kristen,
Yeah.
I think you've been neglecting our little friends here.
Oh. Do they need some attention?
They do, from you in particular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're your favorite, the
Yeah.
Demodex mites.
Love
They're,
it. Love a good
they're
mite.
they're so cute, but they
Mhm.
can cause problems.
Yep.
Yeah, if you get like red, itchy, irritated eyelids,
Yeah.
it could be caused by these little guys.
That would not seem very fun.
Demodex blepharitis. They can't help it. They're just living their lives.
Guess so.
But it's not fun.
no,
It's
not for the
fun.
human.
And they're a lot smaller than this.
That's good.
They don't
I'm
look
very
like
thankful
this.
for that.
They're not quite as cute, but almost.
Okay.
All right, but this is not something you should get freaked out by.
Okay.
All right, you got to get checked out.
Yes.
To learn more about how Demodex blepharitis can affect you, to find out more, you go to eyelidcheck.com. Okay, that's EYELID check.com to get more information about Demodex blepharitis. You want some more video ideas that I can't figure out on my list here? All right, so I've got approval for a dead man.
Is this like a prior authorization idea?
I think so.
Okay.
It's like they get approval, but the patient's already died.
Yeah.
Super dark, so I haven't done that one yet.
Yeah. It's a little depressing. Sadly, it's probably true, which is why it's depressing.
I've got how to piss off a med student. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
What else do I got here?
That is a good one. And you know what? I think you should do that one because they can't do that themselves. They would get in trouble. That would be really
Right.
dicey. So, but for someone like you to speak for
Well,
them,
I kind of did that. I've done like the
med student mafia.
That's kind of what that's similar vein. I have one that's just called Hospital Gift Shop.
okay.
Well, because there's a hospital that is right next to where I work, my practice, right?
Yeah.
And I go in there sometimes
For the free food.
to steal snacks from
Uh-huh.
the lounge.
Correct.
And I pass by, and like every time I pass by there, I notice some other weird thing that they're selling.
Yeah.
Like they have like a 8-foot tall stuffed giraffe.
Yeah. That's probably for like the peds.
No, I get it, but like it's this array of just the wildest things that you've seen that people can in this. I don't know, all
Just
kinds of stuff.
the assortment is
Yeah,
what
just
gets to you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just the variety. Like how I have so many questions. Like how do they
Who's
decide?
purchasing these?
Yeah, who's choosing like what 8-foot tall stuffed animals to get?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a whole thing. So anyway, I got all kinds of. Well, maybe we'll have a segment on Glock Talk. I can.
You could put it to a vote. You could
With-
see if people want you to make these videos.
I thought about that once, like doing a poll.
Yeah.
Like which of these videos do you want to see?
Yeah.
And have it be like the characters. And I don't know. We'll see. Anyway. That was a fun episode.
Yeah, it was really fun. I think
Misinformation's always a fun topic to discuss.
it is. And then the pharmaceutical industry is obviously a very hot button topic.
Yeah.
So
Not everyone is big pharma out there, guys.
right.
And big pharma, it can suck. There's greed in every billion-dollar industry. I don't think you can have a billion-dollar industry without being some greed there.
And that is always the question, right? When it comes to healthcare, at least, should it be a for-profit system? Because then you
Right.
have these kinds of things
But
that end up happening.
There are
But-
also people within that corporation, like
right,
the little people that are just like working,
right.
right? And
Yeah.
then like the
mean, that's the
smaller
thing
groups
with,
that
like-
get swallowed up by the big groups, and it's all this. It's a complicated thing, and
It is. And that's one thing I've seen being along for the ride with your medical. Like I have met so many more doctors than I ever thought that I would, right? And I met them before
You're
they were
so lucky.
doctors. And then I met them,
Yeah.
after they were doctors. And I've seen how their lives have unfolded since med school or whatever. And like just known who they are as people. And most of them are just genuinely good people that genuinely want to help people and are interested in science and are good
Sure.
at science. And so they went this route, right? And it's not any of their individual faults that the healthcare system is what it is. Kind of same for pharmaceutical, right?
Yeah.
Like there are these people that just really enjoy this science and want to make a positive impact.
that like
in the
organic
world.
chemistry.
Right.
They just love it.
Yeah.
They love all the reactions.
And it's not to say that the system doesn't have its problems and that big pharma is an issue. Like all of those things can be true at the same
Sure.
time. So everybody just like, what I don't want is for people to get upset that we're even like talking to somebody, in the pharmaceutical industry.
Whatever
But
we can. That's if you let us know what you think.
Yeah.
We're happy. We'll hear your feedback. There's lots of ways to hit us up. You can email us knockknockhi at human-content.com. We also have social media channels on everything. You can hang out with us in the Human Content Podcast family on Instagram and TikTok at Human Content Pods. Thank you to the great listeners leaving feedback and reviews. If you subscribe and comment on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube at Glock'emfleckens, we can give you a shout out. Like today, we have at the Chaka888 on YouTube said, so wonderful to get to meet Dr. Mauricio. Thanks for all the great information. That was a fun episode. with
that
him.
was a fun episode. I hope people have checked that one out.
Full
Mauricio Gonzalez.
Full video episodes drop every week on our YouTube channel at Glock'emfleckens, plural. There's 2 of us here. Lots of cool perks on Patreon too. Bonus episodes, react to medical shows and movies, hang out with other people in our little knockknockhi community, interactive Q&A live stream events, ad-free episode access, and much more. Patreon.com/Glock'emflecken or go to Glock'emflecken.com. Speaking of Patreon community perks, new member shout out time. I love new member shout out.
Woo-hoo.
Sherry, Campbell, Katie F, and Melinda B. It's a big week on Patreon. Thank you for joining, and thank you to the Jonathans as usual. Shout out to you all. Patrick C, Sharon S, Omar Edward K, Stephen G, Jonathan F, Marion W, Mr. Granddaddy, Caitlin C, Brianna L, KL, Keith G, JJH, Derek N, Mary H, Susanna F, Jenny J, Mohammed K, Aviga Parker, Ryan. I always think about that now.
Aviga Parker Ryan.
Aviga Parker Ryan. Thank you. Muhammad L, David H, Jack K, David H again, Gabe, Gary M, Eric B, Medical Meg, Bubbly Salt, and the one and only Pink Macho.
I think that Rob, our producer here, is the one that puts these
Mhm.
together. I think that he needs to rearrange these in order to make
Oh
them
my
as
God.
difficult
Oh my God,
to
that
say
would ruin me.
as
That would ruin me.
possible. All the G's and J's together.
Patreon roulette time. Random shout out to someone in the emergency medicine tier. Sarah T. Thank you for being a patron, and thank you all for listening. We're your hosts, Will and Kristen Flannery, also known as the Glock'emfleckens. Special thanks to our guest, Morgan McSweeney, PhD, aka Dr. Knock. Our executive producers are Will Flannery, Kristen Flannery, Aaron Cordy, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brick. Editor, engineer, Jason Portiz. Our music is by Omer Ben Svi. to learn about Knock Knock Hi's programs, claim ethics, policies, mission verifications, and the licensing terms.
You need to go back and do
submission
that one again.
verification and licensing terms, and those HIPAA release terms. You can go to glockenflaken.com or reach out to us, knockknockhi@human-content.com with any questions, concerns, or fun medical puns. Knock Knock Hi is a human content production.
Knock, knock, goodbye.
Hey, Kristen, you went to the doctor recently.
I did. I had my annual checkup.
Did they have a Jonathan?
They had a virtual Jonathan.
Oh.
Yes. In fact, it was a DAX Copilot
From
from
Microsoft?
Microsoft. Yes.
Those things are amazing. I love
they
them.
are.
It's just there's just so much documentation burden,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure did your doctor look at you in the eye?
Yes, there was a lot of eye contact.
Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
It's just and the virtual Jonathan. Just I'm sure it lifted your doctor's spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Put
to
a
be able-
pep in her step.
Just to be able to get through the day and actually have like a relationship with you,
Right.
is a huge deal. In fact, 80% of physicians who use DAX Copilot say it reduces cognitive burden.
I believe it. It seemed pretty slick.
Yeah, and you just be more focused on what you're doing and just do what we're trained to do, practice medicine.
That's right.
To learn about how DAX Copilot can help you reduce burnout and restore the joy of practicing medicine, visit aka.ms/knockknockhi. Again, that's aka.ms/knockknockhi. Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts, or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Help you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.